I remember the sound first. Not applause, not music,
first.
not my name being
Not
called.
applause,
Just the hard echo of
not
something
music.
hitting the stage floor and realizing a second too late that it was me. The auditorium lights blurred into white streaks above me. My graduation gown twisted under my arm as people gasped. Someone said, "Oh my God," she fainted. Another voice shouted for medical staff. I couldn't move my legs. I could hear my classmates still clapping awkwardly because they didn't know whether the ceremony had stopped or not. My tassel brushed my cheek as I lay there staring up at the ceiling, thinking one strange, disconnected thought. I made it. 4 years, 2 jobs, no help, scholarships, night classes, endless exhaustion, and now I couldn't even stand. Hands touched my shoulders. "Stay with me," a woman's voice said. My vision tunneled. My chest felt hollow, like my body had forgotten how breathing worked. Someone asked, "Where are her parents?" I almost laughed. They would be sitting somewhere near the middle row. My mom had insisted on good seats. Except I hadn't seen them. Not before walking across the stage. Not during rehearsal. Not anywhere. The last thing I heard before everything went black was a nurse saying, "Call her emergency contact." When I woke up, machines were beeping beside me, hospital ceiling, fluorescent lights, dry throat. A nurse noticed my eyes open. "Oh, good," she said gently. "You scared us." I tried to speak. My voice came out thin. "My parents, are they here?" She hesitated. That hesitation stayed with me longer than the IV needle in my arm. "We've been trying to reach them," she said carefully. "The numbers on file go straight to voicemail." I blinked slowly. That didn't make sense. My mom never missed calls. She treated missed calls like emergencies. The nurse added, almost apologetically, "We've called several times. Left messages." I reached for my phone. 78% battery. Hundreds of graduation notifications. Congratulations messages, tags, photos, and then I opened Instagram. The first story that appeared was my sister Lily's post. Bright sun, ocean waves, cocktails, caption, "Finally our long-awaited family trip to Miami Beach." Palm Sun posted 2 hours earlier. Same time I collapsed. Same day. Same moment. I stared at the screen while the heart monitor beeped steadily beside me. They weren't unreachable. They were on vacation, without me. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from right now? And what time is it? Are you at home? Driving? Folding laundry? Maybe it's late and you should already be asleep. I always wonder who's sitting with me while I tell these stories. And if stories about real families, real betrayals, and quiet emotional truths mean something to you, you might want to stay subscribed. It helps reach more people like you who can relate to the stories. Because what happened next still feels unreal even to me. My name is Emma. I was 23 when this happened. Graduation wasn't just a ceremony for me, it was survival proof. I wasn't the golden child in my family. That title belonged to my younger sister, Lily. Lily was effortless, charming, photogenic, social. My parents described her as easy. I was described as independent, which sounded like praise but actually meant, you handle yourself. My dad owned a small logistics company. My mom managed everything social, dinners, vacations, appearances, extended family relationships. Our family looked perfect from the outside. We had coordinated Christmas cards every year, matching outfits, beach photos, big smiles. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being included in decisions. It happened gradually enough that I almost didn't notice. We sat around the kitchen island. My mom scrolled through travel websites on her tablet. "We're thinking Miami in May," she said casually. Lily clapped. "Yes, finally." I looked up from my laptop. May. That's when graduation is. My mom didn't even look at me. "Well, we don't know exact dates yet." Dad nodded distractedly. "Business has been stressful. We need a break." I waited for the obvious conclusion. They'd plan around graduation. Instead, Lily asked, "Can we stay near South Beach?" My mom laughed. "Of course." I cleared my throat. "My ceremony date is May 18th. Silence. Then my dad said, "You'll send pictures, right?" I thought he was joking. He wasn't. 2 internal thoughts hit me at once. They didn't forget. They just didn't prioritize it. I told myself I was overthinking. Families get busy. People make scheduling mistakes. I convinced myself they'd adjust plans later. They always did, eventually. Except this time they didn't. I called my mom while walking home from campus. "Hey," I said. "Did you book flights yet?" "Yes," she answered brightly. My stomach tightened. "For Miami? Yes, non-refundable, great deal." I stopped walking. "My graduation is that weekend." Pause. Then she sighed like I'd introduced an inconvenience. "Honey, you know we've postponed this trip for years. I thought you were coming." "Well," she said carefully, "we'll celebrate when we get back." I stared at passing cars. "I worked 4 years for this." "And we're proud," she replied quickly. "But graduation ceremonies are long and crowded. You know your dad hates those." I swallowed. "So no one's coming. We'll FaceTime." She said it like it solved everything. I told myself not to cry. I told myself I was an adult. I told myself independence meant not needing anyone. But something cracked quietly that day. The week of graduation felt strange. Friends talked about family dinners, hotel bookings, celebrations. My roommate Sarah asked, "Where are your parents staying?" I pretended to check my phone. "They might not make it." Her eyebrows lifted. "That's weird." I laughed it off. "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. Even professors asked, "You must be excited for your family to see you walk." Each time I smiled and changed the subject. Meanwhile, Lily's Miami countdown posts appeared daily. Packing videos, outfit planning, beach playlists. Every post felt like quiet confirmation. They had chosen something else over me. Graduation morning smelled like fresh flowers and heat from stage lights. Families filled rows early. Parents carried balloons and cameras. I scanned every section. No familiar faces. I told myself traffic existed. Flights got delayed. Maybe they were surprising me. My friend Daniel nudged me. "Your family here yet?" "Probably late," I said. He frowned. "You okay?" "Yeah." Internal thought number 1, if I say it out loud, it becomes real. Internal thought number 2, maybe they'll walk in last minute. Then my name was called. I walked, smiled, shook hands, and then the dizziness, the collapse. The doctor introduced himself later. "Emma, you experienced severe exhaustion and dehydration combined with stress response." I nodded weakly. "Your emergency contacts still haven't answered." He checked his notes. "We've called your parents 7 times. 7, I stared at the IV drip. "Can you try again?" He did. Voicemail again, voicemail again, voicemail. Hours passed. Then more hours. I lay connected to monitors, listening to hospital noises while sunlight faded outside the window. No footsteps, no familiar voices, no flowers, no parents. Around hour 5, boredom pushed me back onto social media. That's when I saw it clearly. My sister's live stream. She spun the camera toward my parents sitting behind her at a beach restaurant. My mom waved. My dad raised a drink. Lily laughed. Caption, "Family time finally red heart." The timestamp matched the moment doctors were calling them repeatedly. They weren't unreachable. They were ignoring the calls. My chest hurt worse than before. Not physically, emotionally precise. Deliberate, the night nurse entered. "Any family arriving soon?" I shook my head. "They're out of town." She paused. "Oh, I'm sorry." "I have an aunt nearby," I said quietly. "Would you like us to call her?" I hesitated. I hadn't spoken to Aunt Maria in months. She wasn't part of my parents' close circle, but she picked up on the first ring. She arrived 40 minutes later, slightly out of breath, her coat still half-buttoned. She rushed to my bedside. "Emma," she said softly, grabbing my hand. "I'm okay," I whispered. Her eyes scanned the empty room. "Where are your parents?" I didn't answer. She already understood. Her jaw tightened slightly, not angry, just disappointed. She pulled a chair closer. "Well," she said firmly, "you're not alone tonight." Internal thought number 1, someone came. Internal thought number 2, and it wasn't who I expected. She stayed all night, brought snacks, adjusted blankets, argued gently with nurses about my comfort. Small acts that felt enormous. 1 hour passed. 2, 5, 10. No messages from my parents, no missed calls, nothing. Meanwhile, my phone filled with graduation tags from classmates celebrating with families. Dinner photos, hugs, proud parents crying. I muted notifications. Aunt Maria spoke quietly. "You know," she said, People show you who you matter to when you're vulnerable. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't think they'd actually miss it. She squeezed my hand. I did. I turned toward her. You did, she nodded. They've been treating you differently for years. That sentence stayed in the air. I wanted to argue, defend them. Instead, I asked, why? She hesitated, then said something that would later change everything. I don't think this is about graduation. I frowned. What do you mean? She opened her mouth, then stopped. This isn't my story to tell, she said carefully, but pay attention to how they act when they come back. My heart skipped. When they come back, not if. I stayed 3 days under observation. My parents never visited. They didn't call. They didn't text. Lily kept posting beach photos, jet skis, sunsets, family dinners. Every image looked happier than anything I remembered at home. I stopped checking. Aunt Maria visited daily, brought books, sat quietly, never asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. Then, on the morning I was discharged, something changed. I turned my phone back on after a night of sleep, and it exploded. Notifications flooded the screen, missed calls, dozens. Then hundreds, my dad, my mom, Lily, extended relatives, texts stacking endlessly. Where are you? Call us now. We need to talk. Emergency. Why didn't you tell us? I counted. Over 100 missed calls. Nearly 50 messages. My dad's last text read, Emma, where are you? We need you for something important. I stared at the words. The same people who ignored hospital calls for 10 hours suddenly needed me. And for the first time, instead of feeling hurt, I felt curious, because something had clearly changed, something big enough to make my entire family panic. I looked at Aunt Maria. She watched my expression carefully. What happened? She asked. I slowly turned the phone toward her. She read the messages, then exhaled quietly. It started sooner than I thought. My stomach tightened. Started what? She met my eyes and said, Emma, I think your parents just realized they can't do what they planned without you. And that was the moment I understood. My collapse wasn't the beginning of the story. It was the interruption of a plan I didn't even know existed. The phone kept vibrating against the hospital tray table. Again, and again, and again. Each buzz felt louder than the last. I watched my dad's name flash across the screen for the 12th time in 10 minutes. 3 days. 3 entire days in the hospital. Not a single call. Now suddenly, panic. I didn't answer. I just let it ring while the discharge nurse explained medication instructions. Any family picking you up? She asked gently. I almost laughed. My aunt's coming. She nodded politely, but I saw the quick flicker of sympathy. People notice absence faster than presence. My phone buzzed again. Dad, Mom, Lily, unknown numbers. Voicemails stacking faster than I could listen. A text popped up. Dad, Emma, answer now. This is urgent. Another. Mom, we didn't know you were hospitalized. Why didn't anyone tell us? I stared at that message for a long time. Internal thought number 1. The hospital called them over 20 times. Internal thought number 2. So why pretend ignorance now? Something felt rehearsed. Not worried. Rehearsed. The automatic doors opened. Outside air hit my face, warm, alive, normal. Graduation balloons from other families floated past in parking lots. Parents hugging kids. Photos being taken. Celebrations still happening. Aunt Maria pulled her car up. She stepped out quickly. How are you feeling? Better, I said. Thanks for coming over. She studied my face. Oh, honey, it's the least I could do, she said softly. Now tell me, how are you really feeling? I hesitated, then admitted, confused. She nodded like she expected that answer. My phone rang again. She glanced at the screen. Your dad? Yeah. She didn't tell me to answer. She just said, people reveal themselves when control slips away. That sentence stayed with me the entire drive home. I finally played one voicemail. Dad's voice sounded strained. Emma, call me back immediately. We need to talk about paperwork. It's important, very important. Paperwork? Another voicemail, Mom this time. Honey, we didn't know you were sick. We're flying back early. Please call. Flying back early. Not coming to see you, just needing contact. Internal thought number 1, why now? Internal thought number 2, what changed while they were in Miami? I scrolled through timestamps. Their calls began at exactly 7:42 a.m., all at once, like a switch flipped. Then a new notification appeared. An email. Subject line, sender, a law firm I didn't recognize. I frowned. Opened it. Dear Emma Lawson, we have been attempting to confirm beneficiary authorization connected to the Lawson Family Trust. Please contact us immediately. My stomach tightened. Family trust. No one had ever mentioned a trust to me, ever. I turned my phone toward her. Do you know anything about this? She glanced quickly while driving. Her hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. I was wondering when that would happen. I stared at her. You knew, she exhaled slowly. I suspected. Suspected what? She hesitated long enough to make my pulse spike. Emma, have your parents ever discussed inheritance with you? No. Ownership, company succession? No. Silence filled the car. Then she said quietly, you might want to call that lawyer before you call your parents. Internal thought number 1. Why would a lawyer contact me directly? Internal thought number 2. Why was Aunt Maria suddenly careful with every word? The mystery deepened instead of resolving. I called the number. A receptionist transferred me immediately. Miss Lawson, a calm male voice said. Yes, this is Daniel Mercer from Mercer and Hale Estates. We've been trying to confirm your availability for signing documents. Signing what documents? Pause, then carefully. The final authorization required for activation of the Lawson Family Trust. My heart beat faster. I don't know anything about a trust. Silence, then papers shuffling. That's unexpected. Why? Well, he said, choosing words carefully, you are listed as the primary controlling beneficiary. The words didn't process. Primary what? The trust becomes active upon your graduation from university. The world felt suddenly tilted. Graduation, the exact day I collapsed. Who created this trust? I asked. Your grandfather, Richard Lawson. My grandfather died when I was 12. Yes, the lawyer said gently. The trust was designed long-term. What does it control? Pause, then, the majority ownership shares of Lawson Logistics. My dad's company. I sat upright. That's my father's business. Yes, Mercer said calmly. Operationally. But legally, ownership transfers to you upon activation. I felt cold. You're saying I own my father's company? Controlling interest, yes. The room went silent except for my breathing. When were my parents notified? I asked. They received confirmation yesterday morning. 7:42 a.m. The exact moment the calls started. Internal thought number 1, they didn't call because I was sick. Internal thought number 2, they called because they lost control. Suddenly every memory shifted. The missed graduation, the Miami trip, the indifference. Had they assumed I wouldn't graduate? Had they expected delay, failure? Because without graduation, the trust wouldn't activate, which meant my father kept full ownership. I whispered, did they need my signature? Yes, Mercer replied. Without you, the transfer cannot finalize. There it was, the reason, the urgency, the panic. I sat at Aunt Maria's kitchen table after the call. Sunlight fell across unopened graduation cards. My gown lay folded nearby. I stared at it, all those years working alone. All those conversations where my achievements felt minimized. Internal thought number 1, they never planned to celebrate me. Internal thought number 2, they needed me invisible, because visibility meant power. Aunt Maria placed tea in front of me. So, she said gently, they didn't forget graduation, I whispered. She shook her head slowly. No, they hoped I wouldn't reach it. She didn't argue. That silence confirmed more than words could. My phone rang again. Dad, I answered this time. Emma, his relief sounded exaggerated. Where have you been? We've been worried sick. I said nothing. He continued quickly. We heard you were in the hospital. Why didn't you tell us? I let the quiet stretch. Then asked calmly, did the lawyer call you yesterday morning? Silence. Long, heavy. His tone changed instantly. You spoke to Mercer? Yes. Another pause, then carefully, we need to meet. Not are you okay, not I'm sorry, just we need to meet. Dialogue expansion, Dad, I said quietly. You missed my graduation. We had travel plans. The hospital called you 20 times. He exhaled sharply. We didn't realize how serious it was. But the lawyer call was serious enough. Silence again. Then he said, this isn't a conversation for the phone. Which meant one thing. He wasn't denying it. I hung up calmly. My hands didn't shake. I didn't cry. Something inside me settled. For years, I thought I wasn't important enough. Now I realized I was too important, just not in the way I believed. She sat across from me. I didn't tell you before, she said quietly, because your grandfather wanted the trust to reveal itself naturally. Why me? I asked. He believed you were the only one in the family who wouldn't misuse it. I stared at her. He saw how your parents favored Lily. I swallowed. He worried about the company's future. The pieces aligned painfully. My grandfather had protected something, protected it from my own parents. That's when it hit me fully. My family didn't abandon me emotionally. They positioned me strategically, ignored me, underestimated me, expected me to stay small, because the moment I succeeded, their power ended. My collapse delayed the signing. My absence terrified them. For the first time, I wasn't the overlooked daughter. I was the obstacle. That evening, my parents arrived unannounced at Aunt Maria's house. No luggage, still tan from Miami. My mom rushed forward dramatically. "Oh my God, Emma," she tried to hug me. I stepped back slightly. 3 seconds of awkward silence filled the doorway. Dad cleared his throat. "We should sit down." Not warmth. Negotiation energy. We sat, coffee untouched. My mom spoke first. "You scared us." I looked at her calmly. "The hospital called you." She avoided my eyes. "We were on vacation, in the same time zone," I said. Dad interrupted. "Let's focus on what matters. The trust." There it was again. No mention of my health, no apology, just business. "What about it?" I asked. He leaned forward. "The company needs stability. You don't understand how complicated ownership is." "I understand contracts," I said quietly. His jaw tightened. "We should transfer authority back temporarily." "Back?" I asked. Mom added gently, "Just until you're ready." Internal thought number 1, they still think I'm naive. Internal thought number 2, they think guilt will work. Dad slid papers across the table, pre-prepared, already printed. They'd come ready, prepared before even seeing me, before asking if I was okay. Silent revenge phase begins. I didn't refuse. I didn't argue. I didn't expose my realization. I simply smiled slightly. "I'll review everything," I said. Relief flashed across their faces. They thought they were winning. They didn't notice the shift. I stopped seeking love and started gathering truth. After they left, Aunt Maria said quietly, "They're afraid." "Of what?" I asked. She looked at me carefully. "Because the trust contains conditions they can't change." "What conditions?" She hesitated, then said, "You'll find out at the board meeting." My stomach tightened. "What board meeting?" She smiled faintly. "The one your father forgot you now control." And that was the moment I realized the real confrontation hadn't even started yet. My graduation collapse wasn't the climax. It was the interruption of a takeover already written years before I understood my role. The envelope arrived the next morning. Hand-delivered, cream paper, law firm seal, my name written formally, Emma Lawson, controlling beneficiary. I held it for a long time before opening it. Because deep down, I already knew this wasn't just money, this was power. And power explains behavior faster than love ever does. Aunt Maria watched quietly from the kitchen counter. "You ready?" she asked. "No," I admitted. But I opened it anyway. Inside were 3 documents: the trust agreement, share transfer confirmation, and a letter written by my grandfather. My hands froze when I recognized his handwriting. I sat at the table. Sunlight moved slowly across the paper. I read aloud without realizing. "Emma, if you are reading this, it means you finished what you started. I built this company for stability, not ego. Leadership should belong to the person who earns responsibility, not the one who expects it." My throat tightened. A memory surfaced, him teaching me chess when I was little. He always said, "Think 3 moves ahead." I kept reading. "Your parents believe ownership equals entitlement. I believe it requires restraint. You were always watching. You listened. That matters." I swallowed hard. Internal thought number 1, he saw me. Internal thought number 2, someone always had. Then the final line, "Do not rush decisions. Observe first." I lowered the letter slowly. Observe first. Not react, not confront, just watch. The legal summary included something new. Clause 7, Executive Oversight Authority, I read it twice. Then a third time. The controlling beneficiary could review company finances, approve executive salaries, call emergency, board meetings, suspend leadership, pending audit review. My heartbeat slowed. My father wasn't losing ownership gradually. He could lose operational control immediately, and he knew it. I looked up. He knew exactly what he was doing. She nodded. Your grandfather didn't gamble. Did my parents know about this clause? She gave a small, knowing smile. They knew enough to fear it. I leaned back in my chair. That's why they rushed home. Yes, and why they wanted me to sign papers before I understood. Yes, the realization landed fully now. They weren't worried about reconciliation. They were preventing exposure. My phone buzzed again. An email from Mercer and Hale, board meeting scheduled Friday 9 a.m. Attendance required. I stared at the date. 3 days away. 3 days to walk into my father's company as controlling owner. Internal thought number 1, I don't belong there. Internal thought number 2, but legally I already do. Instead of celebrating, I started researching. Financial statements, public filings, company history. At first everything looked normal, profitable, growing, stable, but small inconsistencies appeared. Expenses slightly higher than expected. Consulting fees repeated monthly. Transfers labeled vaguely. I highlighted them without drawing conclusions. Observe first. Dialogue, late-night research. Aunt Maria walked in carrying tea. You've been reading for 6 hours. I think something's wrong with the company. She sat beside me. Your grandfather suspected mismanagement near the end. By my dad, she hesitated. I don't know, which somehow felt worse. Retention reset number 6, the sister calls Lily called that night. Her voice sounded unusually soft. Hey, are you mad at us? I almost laughed at the simplicity of the question. I was in the hospital, I said calmly. We didn't know. The hospital called you. Silence. Then she sighed. Okay, maybe Mom thought it wasn't serious. Internal thought number 1, deflection. Internal thought number 2, testing emotional access. She continued carefully. Dad's really stressed right now. Because of the trust. Another pause. You don't understand how much work he's put into the company. I'm starting to. Her tone sharpened slightly. You're not going to take it away from him, right? There it was, not concern. Fear. I haven't decided anything, I said. Emma, this could ruin everything. Everything for who? For the family, I breathed slowly. I thought graduation mattered to the family too. She didn't answer immediately. Then quietly, we assumed you'd understand. Understand what? That I ranked below convenience, below control, below inheritance strategy. She changed tactics. You know, Dad always struggled with you being distant. I almost smiled. Distant. That word families use when someone stops begging for attention. I'll see everyone Friday, I said calmly, and ended the call. Something important happened that night. I stopped wanting explanations. I stopped imagining apologies. Instead, I became curious. Who were they when love wasn't required to maintain control? Friday morning. Glass building downtown. I had visited only twice as a child. Employees walked in confidently with coffee cups and badges. No one recognized me, which felt strangely comforting. The lobby smelled like polished floors and corporate air conditioning. I paused at the entrance. Internal thought number 1, I could still leave. Internal thought number 2, but leaving keeps everything the same, so I walked in. The receptionist smiled professionally. Good morning, name? Emma Lawson. Her expression changed instantly. Oh, Miss Lawson, they're expecting you. She stood immediately. Called upstairs. Within seconds, executives appeared. Not my father, other leaders. They shook my hand carefully, respectfully, nervously. That was the first moment I understood. They already knew who I was, and they weren't sure whose side I was on. One executive, Mark, spoke quietly. We weren't sure when you'd attend. When did you learn about the trust? I asked. Yesterday afternoon. And, he chose his words carefully, change creates uncertainty. Translation. They were watching for a power shift. The doors opened. Large table, glass walls, city skyline behind. My father stood at the head of the table. He froze when he saw me. Mom sat beside him, smiling too brightly. Lily sat near the window, pretending confidence. Every executive watched silently. The air felt heavier than the hospital room had. Dad forced a smile. "Emma, glad you could make it." I nodded. "Legally required." A few executives exchanged glances. He gestured toward a seat. "Let's begin." But I noticed something immediately. A folder sat in front of each person, except me. Internal thought number 1. They didn't prepare for my participation. Internal thought number 2. They planned to control the narrative. I pulled out my own documents instead, placed them calmly on the table. Small action, huge shift. Dad began presenting quarterly results. Revenue numbers, growth charts, confident tone, everything sounded impressive, until he reached expenses. He moved quickly past that slide. Too quickly. I raised my hand slightly. "Can we slow down here?" The room went quiet. He hesitated. "What specifically?" "These consulting payments," I said calmly. "Recurring transfers." His smile tightened. "Standard operations." I turned to the CFO. "Can you clarify recipients?" The CFO glanced at my father before answering. "That would require approval." I opened the trust document. "I approve." Silence, heavy, unavoidable. Power had shifted and everyone felt it. The CFO swallowed. "The payments go to an external advisory firm." "What firm?" He hesitated again, then said, "LL Strategic Holdings." My stomach tightened. Those initials, Lily Lawson. I turned slowly toward my sister. Her face drained of color. "Lily," I said gently, "do you own LL Strategic Holdings?" She stared at Dad. Dad spoke quickly. "It's just a family arrangement." "How much has the company paid it?" No one answered. I repeated calmly, "How much?" The CFO whispered, $3.2 million over 2 years. The room went silent. Executives shifted uncomfortably. Internal thought number 1, this wasn't favoritism. Internal thought number 2, this was extraction. My parents hadn't just ignored me. They were quietly transferring company money to Lily before ownership changed. Preparing a safety net. Preparing for the moment control moved to me. My graduation didn't just activate the trust. It ended their financial strategy. And my collapse almost delayed discovery. I closed the folder slowly. No anger, no raised voice, just clarity. "I think," I said calmly, "we need an independent audit." The board members nodded almost instantly. My father looked at me like he no longer recognized his daughter. Power shift moment for the first time in my life. He looked unsure around me, not disappointed, not dismissive, afraid. As the meeting ended, one board member quietly said, "Miss Lawson, there's more you should see in the executive accounts." More, always more. And I realized something chilling, the Miami trip, the urgency, the fake concern, the pressure to sign papers. It wasn't just about inheritance. It was about hiding something far bigger than I'd uncovered so far. After the board meeting ended, people shook my hand differently. Not politely, carefully, like I had become dangerous overnight. Executives lingered, whispering in small groups. My father avoided eye contact while gathering his papers too quickly. No one mentioned my hospitalization. Not once, not even privately. And that's when something settled inside me with complete clarity. They didn't forget to care. They chose not to. I walked down the executive hallway alone. The carpet muted my footsteps. Office doors stood half open. Employees pretended not to stare. Behind me, I heard my mother's heels clicking fast. "Emma," she called softly. I stopped but didn't turn immediately. Internal thought number 1, maybe now she'll ask. Internal thought number 2, maybe this is the apology moment. I turned. She smiled tightly. "You embarrassed your father in there. Not are you feeling better, not we were scared, just reputation." "I asked a question," I said calmly. "You blindsided him. The payments were hidden." Her voice sharpened. "Families handle things privately." I nodded slowly. "Families also visit their daughters in hospitals." She sighed dramatically. "We didn't realize it was serious. The doctors said stress collapse." "Well," she said, adjusting her purse, "you've always been sensitive." The hallway felt colder. Internal thought number 1, she rewrote reality instantly. Internal thought number 2, my pain was inconvenient evidence. Then she leaned closer. You need to fix this situation before investors panic. I stared at her. Even now, I was a tool. Dad called me into his office 10 minutes later. The door closed harder than necessary. He didn't sit. He paced. You went too far. With transparency, with disrespect, he snapped. I watched him quietly. You transferred company money to Lily. It was compensation. For what role? She advises branding. I almost smiled. $3 million worth. His jaw tightened. You don't understand business. There it was again. The lifelong script. I understand contracts, I said. You're young. I'm the owner. Silence. The word landed heavily between us. Owner. He stopped pacing, his voice lowered. You wouldn't have anything without me. Internal thought number 1. He believed this completely. Internal thought number 2, love and ownership had merged for him. I answered gently. I built my degree without you. His eyes hardened. You're making enemies you can't handle. I stood. I'm requesting an audit. His expression shifted from anger to calculation. You're destroying your own family. I paused at the door. No, I said quietly. I'm finally seeing it. Within 48 hours, independent auditors arrived. Professional, neutral, unimpressed by family dynamics. Employees whispered constantly. Rumors spread fast. The daughter took over. Something's wrong financially. Leadership fight happening. My parents moved through the building performing normalcy. Smiling. Hosting lunches, acting like nothing changed. But they still never asked about my health. Not once. I sat alone during lunch. 2 employees nearby spoke softly. Did you hear she collapsed at graduation? Yeah. Family still went on vacation. That's cold. I looked down at my coffee. Strangers cared more than my own parents, and oddly that stopped hurting, because clarity replaces longing. That evening, Lily posted online. Family businesses are complicated. Loyalty matters, red heart. Comments flooded in supporting her. Friends messaging me, everything okay? Your sister seems stressed. Hope you guys work it out. Narrative control had begun. They weren't confronting me privately. They were shaping public sympathy. She appeared at my apartment unannounced. Designer sunglasses, perfect hair, controlled expression. Can we talk? I let her in. She didn't sit immediately, just looked around like assessing territory. You're really doing this, she said. I'm reviewing finances. You're humiliating Dad. I waited. Still no mention of the hospital. You got everything handed to you, she said suddenly. I blinked. I worked 2 jobs, but you were always the favorite. The statement stunned me. Favorite? Yes, she snapped. Grandpa chose you. Internal thought number 1. So this was resentment. Internal thought number 2, they rewrote neglect as privilege. I didn't ask for the trust, but you're using it. I nodded calmly. I'm using responsibility. Her voice softened dangerously. You could just sign authority back. There it was again. The real request. Not reconciliation, control restoration. I almost died 3 weeks ago, I said quietly. She hesitated, only briefly. Well, you're fine now. That sentence ended something inside me permanently. Silent revenge deepens. I stopped explaining myself after that night. No emotional arguments. No defending motives. I followed my grandfather's instruction. Observe, document. Wait. 3 days later, the lead auditor requested a private meeting. Conference room B door closed. He slid a folder toward me. We found irregular executive withdrawals. How irregular? He adjusted his glasses. Personal expenses categorized as business operations. He turned pages, luxury vacations, private memberships, property payments, millions, over years. My father hadn't just redirected funds to Lily. He had been draining the company quietly, preparing an exit before ownership transferred. Internal thought number 1, they didn't abandon me emotionally. Internal thought number 2, they prepared financially. My collapse had interrupted the timeline. They expected graduation to pass quietly. They expected my signature quickly. They expected ignorance. My mother invited me to dinner. Let's reset, she said sweetly. I went anyway. Large dining table, perfectly arranged plates, performative normalcy. Dad poured wine. Lily smiled carefully. No tension acknowledged. Mom raised her glass. To family unity. I didn't lift mine. Dad began casually. The audit is unnecessary stress for employees. It's transparency, I replied. Lily sighed loudly. You've changed. I smiled faintly. I stopped being invisible. Mom leaned forward. We sacrificed so much for you, I asked calmly. What sacrifices? Silence. They looked at each other, because there were none they could name. Then Dad pushed papers toward me again. Another authority transfer document. You sign tonight, he said firmly, and we move forward. I looked at the paper, then at them. 3 people waiting, not worried about me, not worried about truth, only worried about control. I won't sign. Mom's smile vanished. You're tearing this family apart, I answered softly. The family already left me in a hospital bed. No one responded, because it was undeniable. 2 days later, the audit finalized. The board scheduled an emergency shareholder meeting. Public, investors attending, senior staff present. My father assumed it was routine. He didn't know I had requested full disclosure. I didn't warn him. Revenge wasn't loud. It was precise timing. I sat alone reviewing the final presentation. Evidence organized chronologically. Every transfer, every hidden payment, every manipulation attempt. My hands were steady. I realized something surprising. I wasn't angry anymore, just finished pretending. Aunt Maria called. You ready? Yes. Are you scared? I thought for a moment. No. Why? Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn love. The next morning, I walked into the shareholder auditorium. Hundreds of seats, executives whispering, investors waiting. My father stood confidently at the podium. He still believed he was in charge. He began speaking about growth projections. Then the moderator announced, before closing remarks, Miss Emma Lawson has requested to address shareholders. My father turned slowly toward me. Confusion, then unease. I stood, walked calmly to the stage, and realized something quietly powerful. The girl who collapsed at graduation was about to finish standing up. The microphone felt heavier than I expected. Not physically, emotionally. Rows of shareholders filled the auditorium. Executives whispered behind laptops. Assistants stood along the walls pretending not to watch. My father stepped aside reluctantly. He still wore the confident smile he used at every company event. The same smile from Christmas photos, charity dinners, awards nights. The smile that convinced everyone everything was fine. Until it wasn't. I placed my notes on the podium, and for a brief second, I saw my graduation stage in my mind. The lights, the dizziness, the moment I collapsed while searching the crowd for faces that never came. Internal thought number 1, you survived that alone. Internal thought number 2, you can survive this too. I looked up. Good morning, I said calmly. The room went quiet immediately. I know most of you weren't expecting to hear from me today, I continued. My name is Emma Lawson. 3 weeks ago, ownership control of Lawson Logistics transferred to me under the Lawson Family Trust. Soft murmurs spread across the room. My father shifted behind me. I didn't look at him yet. I didn't plan to speak publicly, I said, but transparency requires context. I nodded toward the screen. The first slide appeared. Executive Financial Review, independent audit findings. The air changed instantly. I spoke calmly, almost conversationally. Over the past 2 years, company funds were redirected through consulting entities connected to executive family members. A board member leaned forward. Investors began whispering. Slide 2 appeared. Payment timelines, numbers, clear, undeniable. I continued. These transfers totaled approximately $3.2 million. Gasps scattered through the audience. I heard someone mutter, "That's serious." My father stepped closer. Emma, he said quietly into the side microphone, this isn't appropriate. I turned slightly toward him. It's accurate. Silence followed. Then I said the sentence that changed everything. I also want to clarify something personal, because leadership is about accountability. I paused. On the day these ownership changes became active, I was hospitalized after collapsing at my university graduation. People looked up sharply. Several executives exchanged uncomfortable glances. I share that, I continued calmly, because while the hospital repeatedly contacted my emergency contacts, no family member responded. The room went still. not dramatic stillness, uncomfortable realization. People were recalculating memories, past meetings, past stories, past impressions of our perfect leadership family. Internal thought number 1, they're seeing the pattern now. Internal thought number 2, truth changes reputation without raising your voice. My mother stood abruptly. This is unnecessary personal information. I nodded politely. It explains why transparency matters to me. Dad stepped forward. We can discuss this privately. I faced the audience again. Private conversations allowed these issues to continue. No anger, just fact. The projector displayed the final slide. Independent financial oversight suspension of unauthorized executive payments leadership, restructuring pending board, vote a shareholder raised his hand. Miss Lawson, are you removing current executive leadership? I answered simply. The board will decide based on verified information. Everyone understood what that meant. I stepped away from the podium. Applause didn't start immediately. Instead, there was something stronger, respectful silence. The kind that follows irreversible truth. Then one board member began clapping slowly. Others followed. Not celebration, recognition. My father's authority dissolved in real time, not because I attacked him, but because facts replaced narrative. The meeting ended in controlled chaos. Investors surrounded legal advisors. Executives spoke in urgent whispers. My parents stood together near the stage, stunned. Lily avoided eye contact completely. For the first time in my life, they looked unsure how to approach me. Dad finally walked over, his voice low. You humiliated me. I studied his face carefully. No apology, no concern, still reputation first. I told the truth, I said. You could have protected us. I shook my head gently. I protected the company, and quietly myself. My mother followed me into the hallway. Her voice softened into something almost pleading. You didn't have to go that far. I waited. She added, We're still your family. I asked calmly. When I was in the hospital, why didn't you come? She hesitated, looked away, then said, We thought you'd be fine. That was the closest thing to honesty I would ever receive. They didn't believe I needed care, because I had always handled myself. Internal thought number 1, they weren't cruel in their minds. Internal thought number 2, they simply never saw me as someone worth stopping for, and understanding that strangely freed me. The company stabilized quickly. Independent leadership structures formed. The audit concluded officially. My father stepped down from operational control. No scandal headlines, no dramatic collapse, just quiet restructuring. Lily's consulting company dissolved. Investors regained confidence. Employees relaxed. And slowly people stopped whispering when I entered rooms. They spoke normally, respectfully. I moved into a smaller apartment closer to the office. Simpler routines, morning walks, regular sleep. Doctor follow-ups confirmed what I already felt. The exhaustion that caused my collapse wasn't just physical, it was emotional depletion. Living years trying to earn attention that was never coming. Aunt Maria visited often. We cooked together, talked about ordinary things. For the first time, family felt calm instead of conditional. One night she asked, Do you hate them? I thought carefully. No. Do you forgive them? Another pause. I understand them. And somehow that mattered more. 6 months later, my father asked to meet for coffee, public place, neutral ground. He looked older. Quieter, we sat across from each other. I didn't expect things to turn out this way, he admitted. I know. He stirred his coffee. I thought I was protecting the family. I nodded. I thought I had to protect myself. He finally asked the question I had waited months to hear. Were you really that sick? I smiled faintly. Yes. He looked down. A long silence passed. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement. Sometimes healing isn't closeness. It's clarity without anger. Final emotional resolution. The strange truth is this. My collapse didn't destroy my life. It interrupted a story that wasn't built for me. Lying on that hospital bed, watching my family celebrate without me, felt like abandonment. But it also revealed something powerful. I stopped chasing a seat at a table that only valued me when I was useful. And once I stopped chasing, I finally stood on my own. Today, the company runs transparently. I work reasonable hours. I eat dinner without checking my phone constantly. Sometimes my family visits, sometimes they don't. And surprisingly, both feel peaceful now, because revenge wasn't ruining them. It was removing the illusion that I needed their approval to matter. The sweetest part wasn't winning. It was no longer waiting to be chosen. I want to ask you something honestly. If you were in my position, would you have exposed everything publicly? Or would you have protected your family's reputation? And another question I still think about. Who was really wrong here? The family who ignored me, or the daughter who finally stopped protecting them? Tell me what you would have done. I read every story you share. And sometimes, your experiences sound even more unbelievable than mine.